he has shot her, and we watched this video in slow motion, her hands are up in the air.
Okay, so a couple of things that I want to address there with you. So first and foremost, I know this is going to sound awful when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's irrelevant that he left all those other police departments and he might have had some trouble in the past, and I'll tell you why. Because when you look at a use of force incident, you have to look at that incident in isolation. You can't look at the officer or their prior conduct or 2020 hindsight, okay? Whenever you're looking at a shooting involving a police officer, you have to go off of the facts that the officer had at that point in time, etc. Now, I know news stations and everyone wants to Monday morning quarterback and be like, this guy was a problematic individual, he had a DUI here, blah, blah, blah. No, let's look at the facts and circumstances of that case. So, fact, they're called on a 911 call. They show up. And when they get there, they look and they see a car that has broken glass on it. And they have reason to believe that there potentially might be a crime that had been committed. So they reach out to the woman and they knock on a door. After several minutes, she finally, answers the door, etc., and lets them in. Then she goes to the back and she's dealing with the stove and the hot water. They tell her, "Hey, step away from it." She doesn't. She basically doesn't answer their lawful commands. And then she says something along the lines of, Jesus rebukes you, and she reaches for it. He gives her a warning. Now, some people might not like the warning where he says, I'm going to shoot you in the fucking face. But regardless, that's him giving her a warning. Hey, do not touch that fucking pot of water and escalate this. So what does she do? She takes it and then she gets behind the counter. They can't see her. Law enforcement is trained to always look at the hands and look for the hands. If you don't see the hands are the things that can hurt you. So what does she do? You can see her put her hands up for a bit, but then you can also see her start to hurl the water at them. Now, look, bro, they don't have to like. She doesn't actually have to like sit there and be like, "I'm gonna go and hurl it at you." If they have reason to believe that she's about to hurl that boiling hot water at them, they can shoot. That is effectively a deadly weapon, hot boiling water. That can really fuck you up if it gets on you, dude. So, hell, pepper spray is considered a deadly weapon a lot of times because it can incapacitate you. Remember, if it can incapacitate you or fuck you up significantly, you can go ahead and use deadly force to stop that threat. Now, the reason why I think he was obviously prosecuted and persecuted the way that he is yes, the background that you mentioned, the fact that she's a black woman, and the fact that, let's just face it, it's in the state of Illinois. Illinois is a blue state. They are terrified of another George Floyd riot. They don't want their fucking cities getting burned down. So the prosecutor's office is like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go ahead and get this guy arrested. Let's keep the fucking civil unrest down, make this political, and let's let a jury of his peers judge it. I think if this guy gets a half competent attorney, he'll be able to beat this thing. I'll turn it to
All
you,
right,
sir. Go ahead, brother.
I disagree. Obviously, I think the facts or your information is skewed. She actually called 911, and the call for service was there's an echo, Jacosta, from your mic. The call for service was that there was a potential someone try. She believed someone was trying to break in her property. She calls 911. We don't. I don't know how many calls of service came out to that location. Typically, as you know, that if there's several calls for services. They keep a database. They keep prior calls so they know who they're dealing with. Okay. Apparently, this guy knew her. Okay. Because he referred to her as a crazy bitch as he after he killed her. He did not render aid. These are factors that will be or that has been weighed. Okay, he did not render aid. Okay, in fact, the guy who his partner who was going to render aid said no, fuck it, she's already bleeding, just basically let her die. Okay, so there's a duty to care, and he did not offer aid. Um, she did not hide behind the counter. She went. She hid behind the counter after he had pulled the gun out. She's like, "Oh shit!" And as she's ducking under behind the counter, she has nothing visible in her hands. You can actually see her hands were empty. Okay, so while she, for those who are listening, police go into her unit. They go into her residence. They're asking her for her ID. She's fiddling around, couldn't find ID. The officer says, "Hey, get that stuff that's on the stove because we don't need a fire while we're here." Okay. She then goes over to the stove. She turns the stove off. I guess she moved the pot, and she noticed that the officer was backing up. She says, "Why are you backing up like that?" Because I would ask the same thing if I seen Myron backing up like he's on some weird shit. Like, yo, bro, what's going on? Why you backing up like that? Oh, because I don't need no pot of water coming to my face. And she's like, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Basically, in In other words, stop it with all that nonsense. May the good Lord bless you. I rebuke that negative energy, that nasty spirit you bringing into this place. That's how most black people take that. That was not a threat, right? And so at that point in time, the officer says, put it down or something like that, or I'll shoot you in your fucking head. And next you know, she's shot dead. Again, she never made any gestures towards the officers at all. I can see if she lunged at him, I would have to agree with you. But she did not lunge at him. She did not throw any water. Water did not come his way until after he fired the shot, and then there was water of crawling on the floor, if you will. But this woman was an innocent woman. She did nothing wrong, and she is in fact a true victim in the eyes of the court and the eyes of the law. And then when you talk about this guy's record, his criminal or not his criminal record, but when you talk about why he left or whatever, and you're saying that that has nothing to do with anything, it
That won't come
absolutely
in.
it has absolutely everything to do with it. And that's why you have these charges.
You're using 2020 hindsight,
No,
sir, and I'm trying to explain
but
to you
no,
that
but
when it comes to
listen, let
officer
me tell
involved
you why it
shootings,
matters. Hold on. No,
2020
no, no, no.
hindsight does not
Myron, let me
matter.
tell you why it matters. Let me tell you the why. And for those who don't know me and what I do, I actually prepare these cases for litigation. Okay. I worked with Benjamin Crump and gave him high profile cases, Chris Stewart, and a whole bunch of other lawyers out in Atlanta. Okay. These cases, these police brutality cases, what matters is we're looking at your behavior, okay? And so what I would do is I want to look at all your public records. I want to look at your disciplines. I want to look at internal affairs. I want to look at personnel, your training. Were you actually certified and up to date on your certifications when you use X amount of force or when you use your taser or your aspeton? So these are the things we're looking at. I'm looking at your training. I'm looking at where you worked at and why you left. If you left, Myron, four other departments for being aggressive, for being violent, for being insubordinate, if you left these agencies because you had 20 use of force complaints, because you were discourteous to the public, because you had zero regard for the policies of the department, these things play in a factor into were you a liability? Did the agency know that you were a liability? When they knew it, and why you left. And so all these things for you to say that it does not matter, they absolutely
When it
matter.
comes to the criminal case, it's not going to come in, bro. You're
Yes,
talking
they
from an
can.
administrative
Yes, they
standpoint.
will. Myron,
All right.
Myron, I've seen it happen.
If his defense attorney is halfway competent, they're gonna make sure that doesn't come in, so it
They're
doesn't
going to fight it,
make
but
the
guess
jury
what,
prejudiced.
Myron, they're going to
So it
fight it.
doesn't
Of
make the
course,
jury
it's not going to
prejudiced
work
because
though.
that's prejudicial information right there.
No, it's not. It has everything to do with. Let me tell you how you bring it into play. You cross the mayor. So this is what I would do if I was on a defense team. We're bringing up the mayor. We're bringing up the chief of
You mean the
police.
prosecution?
Huh?
You mean the prosecution if you're on the prosecution to bring
Right,
it
right,
in?
right, right. But yeah. So if I'm on a prosecution side, right, or no, or if we're doing civil liability. So if we're taking this to federal court.
Well, civil is different.
Yeah,
That's a whole other game.
civil and or
I'm
criminal.
talking
Listen,
strictly criminal,
civil
bro.
or criminal.
If you want to have a discussion on administrative and civil, that's a whole other conversation. I'm talking strictly from the
So if
criminal
we're talking
perspective.
criminal, if we're
If we're
talking
talking
criminal,
criminal, his defense attorney is going to do everything in his power to make sure none of that stuff comes in because he's going to argue it's going to make the jury prejudiced, which is a good argument because he's supposed to be judged on the facts of that particular day and what led him to fire those shots
but
on that day.
but we also know, like even with criminal defendants, like even in my case, those things are going to come up.
Admin is another conversation. You have a case with admin, sir. I'm not even arguing with you on admin because internal affairs can get him all day. That's
Well,
fine.
we're not
I'm
just talking
talking
about
strictly
internal
criminal.
affairs. We're not talking about internal list. We're talking criminal. We're talking criminal and prosecution side. I think it should be brought in. I think it's more likely
Criminal,
than
I don't
not
think it'll
to be
come in,
brought
brother.
in. And
I
even
mean,
on
we
the
could
civil
disagree on that,
side,
which is fine. But I think if he has a competent defense attorney, they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that doesn't get him because that is prejudicial in its nature. Because they need to judge him. Like, I'll give you an example because I've been to trial before. A lot of the times, you can't even bring in a past criminal's criminal history until it's time for sentencing in the trial. It could be used for sentencing enhancements, but you cannot bring it up during the trial, even if it's relevant to the crime at hand. So, for example, let's say this guy trafficked drugs 10 times before, and I want to bring that into the trial where we catch him the 10th time. We can't bring it in a lot of times. Why? Because it's considered prejudicial, and the defense attorney almost always gets it thrown out. So I'm just saying,
you
bro.
know that
It's
there are other ways to get stuff brought in, right? And I've seen
for
it brought
sure,
in. Listen, I mean,
but
and all you got to do,
it's gonna be
right? Hold
tough.
on, I'm gonna tell you, Myron.
Prosecutors gonna
All
have
you
their
have to do
work
is
cut out for them.
either have the defendant and or his attorney open that door, and then you walk right through that motherfucker. So we've seen it happen, and I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in other cases. So we cannot rule out that
Well,
it's
that's
not
why I
going to
said
have
if
a
he has a
factor.
competent attorney, they're gonna do everything in their power to make sure that doesn't come in, and I think they'll have a strong case. Tommy, you had something you want to say,
Yeah,
right?
like I'm listening to this, and it seems like we have two different arguments, and black people argue it from a prejudicial side, and a lot of times, and when it fits their narrative, then they'll say, "Well, yes, let's go along with that." Like, you know how many people I've had tell me, "Well, they arrested him, so that lets you know he did wrong," and I said, "Well, they arrested the Central Park Five too, and y'all been yelling that they didn't do wrong. Why is it that when the arrest happens and it's who you want to be arrested, then it's justice? If the arrest doesn't happen, who you don't want it to be, then it's not justice." That's what's not fair. The argument that Myron is making is 100% true. And if you argue these things, Sir Major, you do know what he's saying doesn't mean that they won't get it in. He's just telling you they're going to fight it, and 9 times out of 10, that is considered prejudicial. And
Yeah,
it
I mean,
is.
I understand that they're going to fight it. There's no
But that's
doubt,
what
right?
he's arguing. Like, people will
Yeah, but
argue
yeah, and
something.
I'm arguing that even if they try, I think it's more likely than not that they'll be successful.
And why do you think they'll be successful on
I've
this?
seen it happen in other cases, bro. Like cases that I've actually
Well,
worked.
both of but that's what I'm saying. But he's seen it happen in other cases, and I have as well seen it more often than not, even in cases of abuse. You can't bring in that I abused somebody else if you're accusing that I abused you.
No, sure you can.
It's prejudicial. You have the easiest way to get it in. Typically,
Well, that's up for a judge to decide if it's
I
prejudicial or
know,
not.
but I'm saying both of y'all have seen it work that way. So both of y'all argument wouldn't be something to sit and argue. He's conceding to you that yes, they'll try it, and you conceding to him that they'll try it. But
Yeah, I mean, we're not deadlock on our positions. We're just saying that we've seen it happen on both sides of the aisle.
that's all I was.
And at the end of the day, it'll be up to a judge. It'll be up to a judge. Now, I think that. Let me toss this to you, Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Should this case be tried at the federal level?
Well, explain why you believe it should be tried at the federal level. Go ahead.
He's making an argument that FBI is going to come in with probably a civil rights violation.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna tell you who's gonna do it.
So they're gonna have
Christian
to
Clark.
find the.
Hold on. Here my prediction right here. My prediction is that Christian Clark, who's the head of she's the assistant attorney general of the United States for the civil department, and I think that she's going to bring civil charges right after the state does theirs.
Well, speaking of civil,
that's what they did with Chauvin and those Minneapolis officers. Is basically the state went ahead and hit them with the murder and facilitating all that bullshit, and then FBI comes in with civil violations.
Didn't they do it with the guys with the Ahmaud Arbery case as well?
Ahmaud Arbery, and also
think they might have filed it federally too, but I don't know. That's kind of pointless because I think those guys got life.
Well, yeah. So we saw it happen in the Ahmaud Arbery case. We saw it happen with the guys out of Memphis, those black cops there. I think those guys and then Derek Savage,
the ones that beat up the kid, right?
Yeah, the black kid, yeah, the black officers.
But those were all black officers.
Yeah, I mean, an officer is an officer. We don't listen as an activist. We don't give a damn what color the officer is. We want them to get treated the same.
Well, it was well. First off, before I even get back into it, I want to address what you said about the civil cases. I appreciate you being civil towards me and Myron because you haven't thrown out self-hate or any of these stupid comments, and we've been able to have a discussion based upon how we see the facts. Now, if you did look at the slow motion version of it, though, sir, she did reach back and pick up that pot.
Yes.
So you can't
deny. You got to send me what you're talking about because I haven't seen that at all.
Oh, yeah, I'll do it.
Tommy, go ahead.
I'll put it on my timeline again. But she literally did.
Jacasta, can you put on the Jumbotron for Tommy, please, bro? It's Tommy actually had a whole video on this where he has it in slow motion. Sorry,
yeah,
Tommy.
if you could let them see it, I'll try to tweet it to you right now.
Yeah, no problem. Just send me that if you don't mind, Tommy. I'll put it right up.
I can send it to your DM.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll send it to your DM right now. But as I'm speaking, yeah, bro, you have to understand. I showed the video of her doing it. Now you didn't see it, and there's lies that's been told. It's just like doing the political race. One side just tells lies. And I think, look, even if someone's guilty, as black people, we should want people to be guilty based upon the facts. not based upon we don't like them, so we lie. And if we get caught in a lie, we say, oh, well, it don't matter. I got called all kind of coon because I showed the video, which they lied and said his camera wasn't on. So the media said this, and they have access to the same videos I have. Why would the media be going around saying she had her hands up when she got shot, when that's not what happened? So then I circulate this video. Apparently the defense has it and the prosecution has it, but the prosecution will suppress it if they can. We've seen it on several cases where they did it to black defendants. Black defendants didn't get fair, the fair ability to defend themselves because the prosecution was holding back evidence. This is evidence that shows she did it. Now, does that mean she should have been shot? I can't say that. But what I can say is when you start suppressing evidence, you must not think you have a strong enough case. And we need to ask, why is the public open to basically straight up saying, fuck the evidence, we're going to hide this. We're going to, if people see it, the internet can float it around. If this was being done to a black person, we'd immediately call racism right now. If there was a video showing that a black person did not do something, he was said that he did. There's a video showing that this woman grabbed that pot, and I even said in my broadcast, she could have grabbed it because she was afraid, but she did grab it and she did throw it. Now, it all still could have been she reacted to having them guns pointed at her and got scared, but it happened. And if we can say she got scared, why can't we say the cops got scared? And I want to address something you said, and then I'll let you come back. You said all black folks know that just mean I rebuke that evil spirit. Well, I've been black for 48 years. And every time I heard that, usually violence came from I rebuke you. There was not let me just say this. That is a lie. Violence of some sort usually comes behind that. And anybody that's ever heard it knows it. This woman was told to turn the fire off. Why did she pick the pot up? A normal individual just turns the stove off. You don't have to pick the pot up. But then you said, if somebody backed away from you and you had a hot item, you'd wonder why they did it. What the hell? That sounds like the idiot who plays with a gun and then gets mad at you when you duck. Why you ducking, dog? What are you talking about? You playing with a, and then you're going to say, I rebuke you because I'm ducking instead of you stop playing with the gun. Nobody would ask why you moved away from me, especially a cop. I need you to move away from me. I need my space. So I'd be glad when a cop backs away from me than when he comes towards me. Because when people come towards you, that's confrontation. When they back away, they're trying to not confront you. And lastly, the white man laughed as he first said, that's hot water. He stopped laughing when she said, I rebuke you. And he said, what'd you say? And she repeated it. Common sense would be once they drew their weapons, put your hands up and just stand there. Not duck behind something. Just stand there. I'm a dark-skinned fella and I have been arrested a few times. I ain't never been beat up by the cops. I've had guns drawn on me. I put my hands up and said, you got it. I don't know what's going on. So somebody like me, who black and crispy, can say that he's had encounters with white cops and I do what they tell me to do. And I'm still here. Do not hold court in the street. Hold it in the courts. Guarantee you'll live.
All right. Here's the flip side. Again, when you say I rebuke you, that typically comes from the black church. I rebuke you. That's something that we say.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. You say all your black life. I don't know how deep or how close you've been to the church, but generally, when black folks say I rebuke you in the name of Jesus and blah blah blah, I bind you and all that other stuff, right?
Atlanta, right?
When black folks,
my mom's a pastor here in Atlanta, right?
No, I don't know who your parents are.
Yes, she
but,
does.
But what I'm telling you is this: when we say I bind you and we do all that biblical stuff, that comes from the black church, okay? And we usually say that when it comes to when we're faced upon an evil spirit, something wicked, something demonic, right? And so that's common. That's common to be that goes to culture, okay? And so had this officer been cultured, maybe he would understand, or at least think twice. Okay, maybe she's not thinking that. Maybe she's not on some possessive
But I'm
thing and
telling you,
maybe
from the church, it
hold,
meant
hold on, just like
violence.
hold on. I heard you. Let me speak. I heard you. So there's that. There was nothing to it. There was no implication that she was going to be violent. This idea, when somebody says "I rebuke you," that's followed up by violence. I've never seen violence be associated with the word saying "I rebuke you" or your spirit. I've never seen violence associated with that. What I will say is this: this woman offered no resistance. This woman was not combative. In fact, she was not a defendant nor a suspect. She called police seeking help. Okay, and officers should be trained. We say should be because it depends on the department, but they should be trained to deal with people that have mental health issues, right? Because I firmly believe as an activist that mental health is not a crime. And so what I would do is I would say, ma'am, first of all, I wouldn't, and you're supposed to be trained as a law enforcement. You never want to give anybody a one up to create a situation or secondary environment that can be harmful, right? So letting her go into the kitchen, let's say she did grab a knife, you created that environment. All you had to do was deal with her for the primary call and leave that particular scene. Okay, you're saying I want you to go in the kitchen. I want you to turn the stove off, blah, 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 all these additional things. I believe that this officer wanted to kill her. I believe so. I believe that this officer is violent. I believe that this officer is dangerous. And what we're going to see happen is that there's going to be FOIA requests if they have not been already sent out, prying into the reasons as to why this officer either A, resigned or B, was terminated for services, right? For previous agencies. I think that it's abundantly clear. There was premeditated statements that says, I'm going to shoot you in your fucking head. When it was unprovoked, there was no reason to even make that threat. And then his actions follow behind his words. And so I think that that's going to be a clear-cut case. I think that this guy is going to be found guilty by a jury. I think that there's no one that's going to defend this guy, and I think he should be brought up on federal charges.
Why do you think he wanted to just kill this random black woman? Why do you think?
I think that based on his previous history, and yes,
Murder? Because he doesn't have a history of murder.
Hold on, you asked me a question, I'm gonna answer it. In the words of Myron Gaines, I'm going to Monday night quarterback this because I'm looking at it from a holistic approach. I'm looking at this intelligently.
You already lost if you're doing it that way.
No. Hold on. I'm looking at this. Well, I'm looking at it from a legal standpoint. Listen,
No, but
we have to
that's
look
why
at
you lost.
Myron.
Hold on, sir, real quick. I'm gonna let you 100% finish. I'm just gonna say this: you cannot look at any officer-involved shooting in the United States from a 2020 hindsight perspective. You cannot. You have to go off of what the officer knew at that time and the facts available to him at that time when he pulled that trigger. That is standard in the United States. There's
I
case law on
understand.
this.
I understand that, but I'm saying we have to also look at this from a holistic approach, right? You have to look at the totality of the circumstances. You know that, Myron. So everyone in the legal field, everybody from not only legal but cable news and everybody else are going to look at the whole picture. Okay. What do we know everything about this officer? What they'll do is called it's a profile, okay? And media is called a profile. So you got an individual, Tommy Sotomayor. They're going to look at his work history. They're going to look at his complaints, whether they're citizen-based or departmental complaints, investigations. They're going to look at your training. All these things play a factor in the entire case. At least whether you want to argue whether it's in court or out of court, all these things do matter.
So you still, I don't see. I asked a direct question. I wanted to know what makes you think he wanted to kill that he went, because you made the statement he went there to kill her.
I think that this is an officer who is overzealous. I think that this is an officer who is undertrained. I think that this is an officer who should have never been hired. When you
Yet
look
you
at this
still
guy's
haven't
history,
proved
I'm
what
answering
you're
the question.
saying.
Hold on.
But
When
you're
you look
not.
at this guy's history, let me finish. When you look at this guy's history, his history shows that he's violent. His history
He has
shows
a
that he's incompetent.
DUI.
I'm talking about the resignations. Those were forced resignations. Those weren't just because
Nope, not a violence.
No, they were violence.
They literally weren't.
So hold on. We're on the record. Are you saying?
Insubordination.
Are you saying that all of his terminations or his resignations, none of them were violent?
I haven't seen any unless you've seen
Okay.
something different.
Okay. Okay. This guy, I'm telling you based
Go
on my
ahead, read it to
experiences
them.
doing these
Read it.
cases.
Read something that I didn't read.
Hold on. I'm just telling you my professional judgment in this matter.
That's what I
Okay.
thought.
Hold on. Because I don't know this guy's history. I don't know his history.
So we can't.
But what I'm saying, just hear me out, brother. What I'm saying is that my expertise and my experiences with these cases, when officers leave in a short amount of time, they got these turnarounds and all these resignations from department after department after department. Usually, those are in relation to investigation and complaints, and so you resign because the investigation stops.
Yes, but not violent.
Well,
They don't
we're
mean
talking about
violent.
use of
Listen,
force.
he
So,
could have
sir,
been sleeping with some of the people that work with him. He could have stole money. He could have been embezzlement.
Well, then it shows that he's an unfit
I know,
officer.
no, but I'm saying you can't go out. Okay, I want everybody to listen to see how easy that is.
I'm going to
If
admit I'm
somebody can say
hypothesizing at
straight
this
up,
moment.
it's violence, and I know it is, and all I did was say, what is the evidence? There is no evidence. I cited what they've already put out. None of it was violent. He said, then in my professional opinion, just from what I know, by that logic, if this man says, in my professional opinion, just from what I know, when somebody say, I rebuke you, they do something violent. He also can say, from my professional opinion, black women don't mind being violent toward the police. We don't want people doing that to us. Yet we have no problem doing it to other people when it's convenient to just say, well, I don't have evidence, but I'm still going to say it because I want to tell y'all this. If he was talking to someone who would not push back, and that's why Myron said, if the guy got a lawyer worth a fuck, he could get out of this. If Sir Major was talking to somebody who wouldn't push back or didn't know, he would have did what everybody did when they talk shit about me. Took it as face value. Didn't
Tommy, don't be a victim here, right? So what I am saying is this:
don't do that.
Based on my,
don't do that, sir. We talking about a victim. She shouldn't be no damn victim either.
Because you always crying about you and Tariq and DJ Vlad. Like, I mean, that's 4 years old, bro. Come on,
stay
now.
respectful.
Listen,
I ain't disrespectful.
I'm being respectful. What I am saying is this:
this woman ain't no victim either. Man, I'm glad he shot the bitch now.
Tommy, stop being Tommy.
Is you gonna sit up there and talk about let's stop?
Tommy, stop. We don't look. The only thing that I'm going to say,
y'all smart ass mouth.
Why are you being emotional about you and Tariq and Vlad
about being a victim. Don't
stop bringing that up, bro. Come on, we're men.
I just
You've
gave
been
you
crying
credit
about that for 4 years, bro. Come on now.
Sir, I don't know you. I gave you credit for being respectful.
No, and I'm giving you credit too. So at the end of the day,
talk to me like I'm talking to you.
Let's get back to the conversation.
Talk to me like I'm talking to you.
And I am talking to you.
No, you did. What I called you shit.
But you keep making these references about Tariq. Come on, bro.
I didn't make a reference about Tariq. That was about what the man
did. Talking about Vlad and DJ Academic.
And that's what he did.
On, bro. Myron don't even do that shit, bro.
It don't matter what
Myron
made about them. I didn't make it about you.
Myron, bring us back on track, Myron. Get us back on track, Myron.
I didn't make it about you.
Yeah, Tommy didn't mention Tariq at all, but sir, let me just bring this back real fast, sir. So here's the thing, dude. I see your arguments. I see where you're coming from. You're saying, look, we need to evaluate this on the totality of circumstances. And I would say, yes, you are correct. You do have to evaluate cases on the totality of the circumstances. But a component of the totality of circumstances is that police officers are not judged on 2020 hindsight when the use of force is used. I want to be very clear about that. One more time. 2020 hindsight is not used on law enforcement when they're actually exerting the deadly force. What do I mean by this? For example, officer shows up to a scene, he sees an individual with a gun. He shoots that individual immediately. But you come to find out after the fact that it was just a cap gun and it wasn't real. Guess what? That cop is not going to be prosecuted because he had reason to believe at that time that he pulled that trigger that the gun was real, and that is a reasonable expectation. Now, with that said, now that I kind of set the precedent there, it's important to note that since cops aren't judged on 2020 hindsight, and this comes back to Graham versus Connor, I had to go back and look at the actual case law. It's Graham versus Connor that has this. This protects police officers from being judged on 2020 hindsight because when you're showing up to a scene, whether it's a 911 call, domestic disturbance, whatever it is, a lot of the times you're going in there with limited facts, based off of what a dispatcher tells you, and you're going in there with your attention already alerted, and other things that come in can easily escalate the situation. Now, with that said, is it the perfect system? Of course not. It's not. It sucks because we're human beings and it's prone to human error. I understand that. But what I'm telling you is, when he is judged on that day, if he decides to go to trial, etc., they're going to judge him on the facts that he had visible to him at the time. Now, let's go through it one more time. He walks in. Woman doesn't follow lawful commands, though they might have not be as polite as people want, where he says, I'm going to shoot you in the face. Instead of a reasonable person would put their hands up, like Tommy said, and realize, holy shit, okay, officer presence is there. I understand, hands are up. But what does she do? She disobeys the command, goes for the fucking water pot anyway. She ducks beneath. He can't see her hands. He moves up to see what's going on and assess the situation. She's coming back up. And if you look at the slow motion video, which Tommy's talking about, you can see that she's trying to throw that water at him, and he hits her right in the head before she can get up and hit him with the water. Now, I know you're saying, look, you could have de-escalated the situation. Woman is mentally ill, all that other stuff. I get that. But again, where are we operating from? We're operating from 2020 hindsight, saying these things. In the heat of the moment where he has his gun drawn and she's not following lawful commands, and she says something along the lines of, Jesus, I rebuke you. Look, you might interpret it as, hey, I'm cultured. I know that that's a black thing in the church. It's not that big of a deal, but he's not black. He might not be cultured. How did he interpret it? That's what the jury's going to judge him on. They're going to judge him on what would a normal person do. And I'll tell you this, bro, and I guarantee you if we pulled up this chat, half of them, at least, or if not more, are going to think if someone says, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus after not following lawful commands, I want to stress that out. After not following lawful commands, the next logically sound step is going to be she's going to escalate from a violent perspective because he has his gun out and she's still not following commands. So what is she going to do? So again, I'm not saying that this was the most amazing thing. It's very sad that a woman lost her life. But dude, I'd be saying the same thing to you if he was a white man, a black man, a green man, an Asian man. They didn't follow lawful commands. They tried to go ahead and throw that water, and that's what happened, bro. If you look at everything from a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perspective and what's going to come next, she went up the use of force totem pole, and that's why she got
Well,
shot.
I mean,
And
would you agree
Costa, I
with this,
sent you the video.
Myron? Would you agree with this that the officer probably should have went over there and just said, "Ma'am, I'm going to turn your stove off
Monday
for
being a
safety,
quarterback.
for officer safety"? Would you agree that he should not have given her an opportunity to potentially escalate the matter?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. Right now, we can get into more, how you can have handled it better, de-escalated, etc. Keep in mind, bro, he's showing up on a 911 call. He's going into someone's house that he doesn't know. Okay, whenever you're coming in to a situation where you don't know the individual or their house, you try to keep your eyes on the swivel. You try to see what's going on. Obviously, the house was extremely cluttered and extremely dirty. He doesn't know what's going on, so his head's already on a fucking swivel. If you look at that video, so for him to go and say, "Oh, I'm going to turn the stove off for you," blah blah blah, and she's already kind of not listening to what he's saying. That's not something that would make sense because she's already kind of putting herself off as someone that isn't going to listen to
But
commands.
but
You know what I'm saying? So that's why
he's
I try to
already
keep his
got her
distance.
sidetracked and distracted. Man, we need your ID, and then it's it leads from the conversation moves from the ID to now going into the kitchen, which is another area which could potentially be dangerous, right? And now we want you to do something with the stove, right? And so I think that the officer should have controlled the environment by saying, "Ma'am, this is what I'm going to do," announce what he's going to do, and or the why if there's a concern that there may be a fire.
But she wasn't following commands, bro. This is assuming you got a logically sound individual that's going to
Well,
be
no, she was
following
following
commands.
commands.
If you
She was looking for her ID. She was fiddling around, couldn't find it. And then the conversation went from, "Oh, we're looking at stash right there." Then it went from worry about this stash here. It went from the focus of the ID, from trying to get identification, to now I want you to leave your focus from getting us the ID to now fiddling with the stove or do something with the stove in the kitchen.
Listen, like somebody said, if you watch any,
Yeah, because that's the immediate threat to hot boiling water there.
oh
Sorry,
no,
Tommy, go ahead.
like if like somebody said, if you've watched any Catholic movies, the words "I rebuke you" is followed by dousing you with water. Literally, that's what it is.
Yes.
Any Catholic movie,
Yes.
anyone, that's what it is. And I hope his defensive attorney hears this. Second off, I want everybody who's watching to listen to what just happened earlier. It may seem like it's a small point, but it's a point that I always make. The group that's always talking about how they want to help other people and people are being done wrong, and I'm an activist, went out of their way to try to tell somebody else, don't be a victim. And it's stuff like that that makes people look at black folks and turn around when they laugh at your pain, when they laugh at what you're going through while saying take theirs seriously. That's what I mean by having a respect. or respect when you're having a discussion about something like this. A life was lost the same way a life was lost in the Trump rally. But it seems like because it's a white person that supported Trump, it's a joke. Nobody's sitting up there taking that serious. That's a joke. Everybody's been joking about that since it happened.
I
But if you
wasn't.
joke about this,
I mean, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I didn't make a joke about Trump. I don't find it funny.
you just spoke to me earlier. When I've
I
been
told you stop
don't call me
being
a
a victim
victim
about the
when you're
Tyreek
talking
shit.
about you're sticking
You
up a
keep
victim.
bringing up the Vlad stuff and the DJ
I
academic
can
stuff,
talk
bro.
about. I can tell you what you shouldn't say.
But you cry about it all the time.
And there you go again, and y'all crying.
We're not crying. I'm not
Yeah,
crying.
you are. Yeah, you are. You crying about
I'm
what
not
that white
crying
man
at all.
did. Y'all ain't did
Bro,
shit to him.
I'm discussing it from a legal perspective.
No, you're not. You've been talking about emotions the whole damn time.
I'm not talking about emotions.
Yes, you even said how your emotions on it. I had to sit up there and check.
How did I say I was emotional about this case?
Saying the white man got
How
fired
did I
from
say
his
that I was
job?
emotional about this case?
You said the white man got fired from his job because he had did something violent to people with no damn evidence. None. Not one piece. Or my thoughts on it
I
was.
also think one other thing I was going to say, Tommy. I also think it's important to note that if I'm not mistaken, this individual was charged with first-degree murder.
Yes.
Correct? Now, for first-degree murder, you need to
Thank
prove
you.
that it was premeditated. I don't know how they're going to be able to articulate that it was a premeditated murder when the officer was bound by duty to show up at that scene and respond. So it was not premeditated at all. It's just that she didn't follow
The
command. So
premeditation,
I
this is what they're going to argue, Myron. Premeditation is,
go ahead.
I'm going to shoot you in your fucking head. Follow
That's
behind.
command.
2 minutes later,
He
he
said,
shoots her in the
if you
head.
do this, that's a command. Listen, cops have said plenty of times, if you do this, I will shoot you. If you do this, I'm going to pepper spray you. If you do this, I'm going to tase you. How can you then turn around and say that's premeditation?
But there was no.
Yeah, that's officer presence, sir major. That's something that they teach you in the academy called officer presence. Now, I get it. Sometimes it's vulgar, sometimes it's mean, but a lot of the times you have to assert your authority over other individuals to let them know that you're serious, which is what he did. Could have he done it another way? Sure, but the point is that that's officer
Let me
presence,
ask you,
and I think
Myron.
we're
Would you have shot
conflating that
her?
with
Would you
premeditation.
shot and killed her?
You know what, dude? Every officer is different and their training is different. I mean, given those facts and circumstances, I don't know. Again, this is that 2020 hindsight thing. But I could see. Now, here's the thing: the test is this: with Graham versus Connor, it's did he act in a reasonable fashion given the facts that were present to him and what happened at that time when it occurred? I would say he acted reasonable. Maybe not the most reasonable. However, I think it was a reasonable
So I
statement.
talked to
Why do
several
we
different
never ask
officers,
the
and
question? Why do
we've
y'all
seen
never
several
say
officers come out and speak on this case. Every officer that I heard from, all say that this was unjustified. All say that he
That's lip
I'm
service.
sorry.
That's lip service to
No,
not
no, I'm
come
just
off
saying
as
that.
a black
Look, when
hating.
we look at
Uh,
reasonable, right,
go ahead.
and I'm sure it'll be articulated what would a reasonable citizen would have done. But when I speak to officers and I look at officers kind of commentating on this case, they all agree that this guy should have never been hired.
they're
They
not trying
all
to lose
agree.
their job?
Hold on, Tommy. They all agree that he shouldn't have been hired. They all agree that that you can tell by this guy's body language and the way how he dealt with the call that he had total disregard for life. I mean, when you look at how he stood around and he told backup officers just stand outside. He told the guy not to go get the kit. He basically when he made remarks saying that she's a crazy bitch. I mean, it just shows that this guy had no regard for this woman's life at all.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah, this is going to sound really cold and callous, but that's all the facts you just mentioned are irrelevant, dude. And the reason why I say that is because they're going to go off of what were the facts present to him at the time when he pulled the trigger. We can go ahead and say he's a bad guy, bro. I'm not saying that this guy's a good dude. Obviously, he probably shouldn't have been hired. He probably shouldn't have been in that position. However, he was. And when he was, did he act lawfully? At that moment in time that we are specifically talking about, in that 10 seconds where that entire interaction when was going on and he fired that shot, did he act in a reasonable manner? I would argue he would. If we go ahead and we take out, because here's the thing, bro, you got to be able to when you look at use of force situations like this, you cannot use the officer's past conduct and other things like that to go after him. Now, of course, if you're going to look at it from an admin case or this other stuff, sure. But I'm talking about strictly from the criminal liability perspective of him pulling the trigger and shooting at her. Dude, it was a clean shoot. It was reasonable in my end. In my
the
opinion.
sad part about it is this. I just showed the video, and hopefully Jacosto put it up there.
Yeah,
I didn't
Tommy.
Oh yeah, it's on the
Yeah,
jumbotron now.
I found another video because the one that you sent me, I wasn't able to save and post. So I found this one, and this one works.
Okay. But I just posted that. The
Oh my,
response.
Tommy, I found it. You remember? This is what I remember. Remember when you asked me about this guy's history? This is where I got the facts slightly mixed up. When I said that he was a violent guy, he was discharged from the army for violence.
Not relevant,
at
bro.
all. You said he was
Not relevant
discharged
at
from
all,
the
brother.
army. The army, what did he beat a woman up? Was it a black person? But it's not relevant, and nobody else would want to have to go to trial and have you bring up that as the reason why you're trying to say I premeditated murder against someone when the situations aren't even the same. That would be what a lawyer would immediately argue, wouldn't it? You would want it if you were the defendant. This is what I mean. These things that y'all are trying to do to someone else, if they did it to you, you'd say it was unfair. But I want you to understand this. I posted that video showing the woman throwing the pot. That was it. I was excoriated by black folks, told I was a sellout. You think a cop is going to come out and publicly say that was a good shoot? Hell no.
Fuck no, bro. Fuck
What?
No, dude. Hell no.
He would be an idiot. That would
Career
be suicide,
bro. Yeah, career suicide, bro. Especially if you said it on a public forum. Like, they would never admit that shit, bro. They'll never admit that shit. But the only reason, like, guys like me and Tommy are coming out and saying that, I mean, hell, I'll give Officer Tatum credit. He said it was a good shoot, too. But, dude, anytime you say something like this, you face cancellation, being called a coon, etc. So most cops are just not going to come forward, bro. This is why do you think that they charged them? Think about it, bro. This is such a weak murder one case, but why'd they do it? They did it because the prosecutor's office wanted to send a message, hey, the state of Illinois, please don't fucking go crazy and destroy our state and destroy our cities. Like, we arrested this because, dude, they arrested him literally immediately after the shoot, bro. That tells me they arrested him off a criminal complaint. You know what that means? If they arrest you off a criminal complaint, that means they didn't even go to a fucking grand jury yet. They didn't even assemble a grand jury to indict this man yet, bro. That's how fucking scared they were of civil unrest. That's why I make the argument all the time when, me and Tommy talked about this the other day. This was a political arrest more than anything else.
And I think that's why they overcharged him.
He wasn't even indicted by a jury of his peers.
But I think that's why they overcharged him, Myron. I think they overcharged him because they know a good lawyer worth a fuck can get this thrown out. Because if they were really serious about this 100%. Case, they would have never charged him with 3 first-degree counts. They wouldn't have done that.
Dude, if the only thing I think you can even try to go to trial on this is maybe manslaughter. Maybe. But premeditated murder or like a murder one, fuck no, dude. That's 100% a political charge to keep the masses from going crazy. And the fact that they arrested him literally days after and he didn't even get indicted, that tells you guys everything you need to know, man. They didn't even convene a grand jury for this shit.
Y'all get caught up in the song and dance, and this is what's scary. Again, I'll repeat. Every time they do something you like, you now agree with them. The system said, it's like how y'all will say, well, they arrest black men for no reason. But if it's a black man you don't like, what you'll say, you've been to jail. You've been to jail. It's the same damn group. So they arrest black men for no reason, but you make fun of a black man for being in jail. You sit up here and the white man says we arrest him. Now you agree and you throw that up in people's face and say, well, if it wasn't true, why would they have arrested him? Isn't that what white people been saying about black people for years? And you've been saying you can't say that just because a person's been arrested, that these white people are arresting black people for no reason. Well, this could be a situation. And if you look at it, it appears to be a situation. It's a political arrest. They are trying to make sure they don't get their town and city and everything torn up by doing nothing. This was proactive on their part.
100%. They filed a criminal complaint within days. So this riot is going to happen. I think what's going to happen is they're going to get him indicted, probably maybe on, if they're ambitious, they could try for the murder 1. But more than likely, they're going to get him indicted on some charge, whether it's a murder 2, manslaughter, whatever. And then once the news kind of evaporates from this case or whatever, I don't think the DA's office is going to push to prosecute him as hard. And if this guy secured a lawyer that's halfway fucking competent, he's going to go ahead and walk and beat this case. But it doesn't matter because to the DA, they can at least say, hey, look, we prosecuted him and we couldn't, we tried our best and the jury found him innocent. It's not on us.
And they're gonna make sure they get some black people on the jury. And so they're gonna be able to say, we did what we were supposed to do. If you got to fight with us,
is Springfield Cook County?
Huh?
And Sir Major, I know we're gonna, and I don't want to segue into something else here, but this is another controversial take. Chauvin didn't kill George Floyd. It was the fentanyl that killed George Floyd. But the thing is that you got discrepancy in autopsy reports. You know, one is saying it was a knee and neck, another one saying it was a fentanyl, etc. You had different medical examiners doing the thing. That was another politically charged case. But they looked at it like, fuck that. We don't want our city
Yep.
fucking getting burned down. So they just went after Chauvin
So,
super
so,
hard. But we all
so
know that it wasn't him that killed
that was the
Floyd.
case that my friend Benjamin Crump did. He actually he's on both. Actually, he's doing a lot of these cases. But uh, rule number one when you have a fatality or wrongful death case is to always get an independent autopsy report and toxicology report. Um, and so as you so elegantly stated, which is the facts, is that there was a second autopsy. Now I can't talk. There was a second autopsy performed, and the cause of death was ruled by the officer. Um, and so that's why you saw that $27 million settlement, and that was one of the highest. The highest settlement that I've ever seen is the case that I did in Atlanta, Georgia, a few years back, where I got a guy $100 million. But the media doesn't give me that credit for that. But yeah, I'm the one that found out this guy's
Why you
death. I had an
crying?
officer. I'm not crying.
I'm saying,
Shut
like,
up,
it's a
Tommy.
silly thing to say to a grown man. It's just that you talk. It's a silly thing to
Tommy,
say.
shut up, man.
Why you
That
crying?
was a good one. I get. I'll give you that one,
That's
man.
my
Shut
only
the fuck
point.
up.
I'm listening to you. I'm like, hey, he got a point. If he did that and they not saying anything about it, that's fucked up. Nigga want his fucking credit. Get your credit. Every time I call
Tommy's
Capital One, it's because I want my credit.
But yeah, so I had a good. You look, there are a lot of good officers out there, and I had a good officer tip me off about the case with Jerry Blasingame. They told me that there was a murder being covered up. I intentionally didn't do anything on the case for 2 months because I wanted it to blow over. Obviously, if I get on the case, they're gonna find out how did I find out about it, about the case. And what they'll do is they'll look up the last motherfucker, look up that police report internally, and they're gonna be like, "Yo, that's the one that told Sir Major about this case," and now he just sued the fuck out of us. And so what I did was I waited 2 months. I went and got a lawyer from Michigan, and I had them do the case. They flew me back out to Georgia. We backed that case up, and we got a federal jury verdict.
Well, I want to ask you something, Sir
So
Major.
yeah,
Do you understand what I was trying to do? Yay or nay? Let me explain.
yeah. I mean, I understand
This
what
part,
you're doing. Yeah,
because it seems like we missed this part. We're no better than the people we're complaining about if we start fabricating evidence or suppressing evidence. If we believe, like, if you believe I'm a bad guy, you shouldn't have to lie on me. We see people doing it from time after time after time. You have a friend. Have you ever had a friend tell you a story and they were telling you about somebody else trying to get you to see how that person did them wrong? And you fucked around and said, well, I can kind of understand what they did. So then they'll change the story. They'll be like, yeah, but what you don't understand is he did this. And their whole thing isn't to get your real reaction to what they're saying. They're trying to get you on their side. And it seems like a lot of these cases, from when it comes to the cases or politics, the people aren't trying to give you the information and let you decide. They're trying to manipulate you. And that's the only reason why I put the video out, because I was saying, why would the media, who has all these angles, be lying to people and say she got shot with her hands up? Like, if there's a riot, they should be culpable, because I know they had the same video that I would have had. How would I get it and they don't have it? So why would we do
I've
this?
definitely done cases where people. I've had an. I'll tell you two cases. Case one, where I've defended a cop who actually shot and killed the young 16-year-old kid from Columbus, Ohio. The girl had a knife. Little girl had a knife. Police arrived on location, Columbus police, and she was lunging at an adult. I think these are like foster parents or something like that. And she was getting ready to stab him. And white police officer shoots the 16-year-old kid and kills her. City protested, and I went up to Columbus and met with the family and did my thing. But I actually supported the police officer, or I didn't give him like my unwavering support, but I did a public statement saying that this was a
So
justified
you
shooting,
wavered a little bit?
and a lot of people, huh? No, I mean I just
I'm
kept
just
it
fucking
real. I
with
mean
you.
it
You
was a
said you didn't give
justified
him your
shooting. I mean,
unwavering support. So
I mean, I'm not gonna go like campaigning this shit, but I mean, I made
But
it
do you
known
get the
that,
point? Like, so you're saying
folks,
you understand that, because let me say this: if you call something racist that's not racist, eventually when you get to something that's racist, people will be tired of hearing it. It's like the boy that cried wolf, right? If we are willing to lie and they catch us in a lie, even if, isn't that the same thing that happened with O.J. Simpson? The cop got caught in a lie. So why would we believe anything else you're saying? Hey, O.J. might have did it, but you were willing to fabricate evidence.
Yeah, no. So, look, so I mean, I call that case out, right? I got friend cops, buddies of mine who have done things, and these guys actually did some of the shit that that was brought up in case. I mean, I got up and spoke on behalf of this one cop. Instead of him doing 7 years, he did 2, and that was only because I spoke. He had no one, no police union, no officers. Every department was throwing this guy underneath the bus, and I had his back and got him 2 years. I do a lot of work. Another case I did, which I thought was Reeves to tell you about this case. I got a call from Minnesota. Minnesota's like a real progressive motherfucking state. I can't stand it. But I get a call from this activist. I think it's like teen activists of Minnesota or some shit like that. And they send me these photos, and these photos were so graphic. I mean, imagine seeing a body and a body of water for over like 2 weeks or so. And you see the face bloated
Yep.
up, discolored, and everything like that. So I get this photo in my inbox right here on Twitter. And they told me the police beat the shit out of him and threw his body in a body of water. Okay. And I'm looking at the photos. His eyes are bulged out. I mean, I'm talking crazy shit. And I'm like furious. I'm engulfed in fucking rage, right? I'm like, we got to shut this shit down. We're going after him. And I said, listen, you're an activist in Minnesota. Why aren't you doing the case? Why didn't you post these pictures? He wanted me to post them because I have a bigger platform than he did, right? But then there's a legal part of doing this shit. You can also be sued for defamation and lying on cops too. So I'm like, I'm not about to. Are you sure that this is what it is? I said I need to talk to the family first because that's my product. That's my policy. Protocol is I talk to the victim or I talk to the victim's family. I'm not going based on what you tell me, what the lawyers want me to know. I talk to the family first. Then my second question is, does the family have legal representation? Because if they don't, I'll get them the legal representation, but I'm not coming on a case to be used as a marketing piece for lawyers. You get what I'm saying? Because a lawyer will use the fuck out of you. Okay, they will abuse activists and take advantage of them. So me, I get to the nitty gritty. Then I'm looking at all of the fucking reports. I want to see what you all have available. Do you have a copy of the police's narrative? And it's only a narrative. A police report is a police narrative. So I'm looking at everything holistically. Well, this activist wanted to drag his feet on everything. Long story short, come to find out, I put the narrative out there. And the shit is picking up. Media's calling me left and right. I'm on the phone calling state representatives. I'm demanding, and this is Minnesota. So my uncle, he's big time in Minnesota. So I'm making like all these calls. Come to find out, after a week and a half of working this case, I look at the police. I get on the phone with the police department. They actually sent me the body camera footage. They chase this guy at a high rate of speed. This guy crashes the car. He gets out of the car and he takes off and he bolts. The passenger has a gun on him. The other girl, she acted like she didn't know anybody. Like they all lied about knowing each other. Come to find out, the police never touched this kid. This guy, they were so busy trying to focus on who was in the car versus going after the driver. The driver runs and he starts stripping his clothes off, and he jumps in a body of water, and he did not make it. But the narrative that was told to me was, and the narrative that I ran with, was that they beat the shit out of him, and that they threw his ass in the body of water. Do you know that I had to then draft up statements, one for my organization, one for me personally, apologizing to the police department and the officers? First of all, I could have been
So
sued.
you know what I'm talking about.
Second
like that's
all,
a fucked up. You had something that a lot of people don't have, which is at that point, even though you ain't did it to me, at that point, you were able to say, well, this is fucked up. Let me apologize for it. But a lot of people have realized you can just lie on people and then move on to the next thing. That's what's scary. Like the vice president who said what happened with Jussie was a modern day lynching. She never apologized for that. she never said that's messed up. You should come back after you've said something publicly and threw people under the bus. Maybe you should come back and say, my bad. But they won't, because they don't have to on a lot of these sides. So they'll get people like you who want to do something for a good reason. They'll use that momentum against you, that you're hungry to help. They'll just throw you some bullshit because you got to answer for it, not them.
Definitely. I move with integrity when I'm doing these cases. I take it incredibly serious. There's a lot on the line, and people's lives are affected by it.
Yep.
So, I felt the need to get the story right, and I did that. And in fact, I issued these public statements in writing and sent it to the media, and media covered it. And I got called. Oh, now you're defending cops. You're a sellout. We'll never work with you again. Blah, blah. Like y'all can't just lie on people and ruin people's careers
Make
and
me a
shit.
sellout because I'm trying to say, hey, we don't want to do it this way. Because if we start doing it that way, then they'll start doing it that way, and we won't like how that ends up.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And I think that's
I guess switching gears real quick. Did y'all see the pedal stream that we did with Vitaly, man? We caught 3 guys tonight, man. 3 out of 3.
hey, yeah.
Oh yeah, that was one of the things
Oh
I wanted to
shit.
talk about.